Hello, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. So meal planning overall is extremely important to you seeing your goals. It allows you to stay consistent much better than just winging it. I know there's a lot of people out there that like to just wing things and go with the flow, but when you're trying to lose weight or build muscle, whatever your goals are, this is really important. There's usually two types of people when it comes to meal planning. There's person A, who just really likes structure and will take that very seriously and does not care whether or not they eat the same exact thing every single day. They can do that for a very long time and be perfectly happy with it. And these are the people that usually will meal prep, which we'll talk about in a second. And then person B likes a little bit more creativity, a little bit more flexibility with their meals. They get really bored easily, don't want to be eating the same exact thing every day. I would say I'm leaning more towards person B, but when I have clients, they'll tell me, oh, I eat the same exact thing every day. Here's exactly what I eat. Or I'll have a client that has a really hard time telling me what they ate even yesterday because it's so spontaneous. There is a big difference between meal prepping and meal planning. What this isn't a meal prepping course. It's not a meal prepping workshop. What you do for prepping is you dedicate usually a day to making all of your meals for the week. Meal planning, you still have that structure, but you're cooking meals when you're about to eat them instead of just taking a thing of Tupperware out of your fridge and heating it up then and there. That way, with meal planning, you can usually have a lot more variety in your meals throughout the week. Whereas with meal prepping, you're cooking in bulk. So you likely want to simplify that process and maybe just make a bunch of rice, a bunch of chicken, a bunch of veggies, all of that. So it's a lot different. And I want to make that distinction early on so you guys have an idea of really where the difference lies. And some people really love meal prepping. I don't. So when I really recognized that I wanted to start building muscle, I realized very early on that I needed to at least meal plan. For probably most of my college career, I didn't do either of these things. I tried out meal prepping very early on, didn't really like it. Then I kind of just went with the flow. I was winging it. I wasn't like really focused, dead set on a goal. I was just weightlifting because I thought it was fun. But then at a certain point, I wanted to build more muscle. And whatever I was doing in that moment was not working for me. I hit a huge plateau. So I started meal planning. And that totally changed the game. I started seeing results again. I had so much structure. I didn't just go and buy something like takeout out of convenience anymore. Sometimes I do just because I want something. Like sometimes you need comfort food, but that's a different story. So you really need to know the basics of nutrition. We're gonna go over them very briefly for you to be able to structure good meals. Like you can meal plan all you want, but if the meals that you're planning aren't the healthiest or very calorie dense, then you're really not going to see the results that you want regardless. So they go hand in hand. There's 3 macronutrients that you need to focus on. There's 3 in total. You need to focus on all of them. There's protein, there's complex carbohydrates, and then your vegetables and good fats. Carbs are an umbrella term. There's veggies, fruits and veggies, and then your complex carbs. Now, feel free to take a picture of this slide so that you know just some general healthy food options within each category. Like you can see, complex carbs has grains, quinoa, brown rice, sweet potatoes, all of that. So that you have a good idea. Your plates, by the way, do not need to look exactly like this. You don't have to have it compartmentalized like in this picture, but it can help in the beginning. When I first started like cooking my own meals, I did your standard chicken, rice, and broccoli. That got old really quick, but it helped me learn how to structure good, healthy meals to later be able to take on more challenging recipes. So also a note on fats. Fats are very necessary. You should not be afraid of them. They are more calorie dense than carbs and proteins, but you naturally eat less of them in your food anyway, so it's usually not of concern. Like it's showing here, coconut oil, olive oil, avocado. Those oils are usually things you just cook with. You use a very small amount, like you cook your chicken in olive oil. They don't have to be like a separate item on your plate. Meal planning can be as simple and black and white as what veggies do I want this week, what complex carbs do I want this week, and what protein do I want. Ultimately, like if you want to go to the grocery store, be like, okay, I want to make chicken this week, I want to make broccoli, and I want to make rice. You can do that, but like I said before, it can get old very quickly. But it's a good place to start. Or it can be as complex as really asking these deeper questions like, what new recipe do I want to try? What do I need to prepare in advance? So, when you get canned beans, you can just drain them and put it right in your dish. But if you get dry beans, you have to hydrate them, and that's a long process. Or like with a slow cooker, you have to prepare that way like hours and hours ahead of when you actually eat it. So thinking of those deeper questions, even what can you make to where you have leftovers the next day and you can have it for lunch? What types of portion sizes do I want to make? Do I want to make it just for myself and my partner, or myself and enough to have more the next day? All these, when I said this was a workshop, I meant this was a workshop. So hopefully you have a pen and paper or even your phone, doesn't matter, but I want to take a few minutes. We're going to stop for a little bit, and it'll also give you an opportunity to ask some questions. I want you to answer these and keep tabs, like make sure you keep this around because it's going to help you meal plan in the future. So what day of the week is the most convenient for you to go grocery shopping? That's really going to help you decide what day you need to dedicate. What day do you have more free time to be able to go to the grocery store and to plan out your meals before you go to the grocery store? How long does your food typically last? When you go to the grocery store, does it usually take you 5 days to run out of the majority of your food, or 2 weeks? Like if you're a bulk shopper like me, it takes me 7 to 10 days until I have to go back to the grocery store. Whereas when I didn't bulk shop, I had to go like twice a week, and it was exhausting, to say the least, for 2 people. When I was living alone and I was only cooking for myself, it was totally manageable. I would only go once a week because my food would last me. But when you are cooking for 2 or more people, usually bulk buying is going to be the better option. What foods can you buy that won't go bad quickly? So brainstorm a few and write down the ones also that I kept on the slide, like frozen fruits and veggies, frozen meats. Like when you go to the store, of course, there are some things that you can buy frozen that they're already frozen, or you can go into the meat section, the chicken. It's going to be refrigerated, but go home and stick it all in your freezer because that's going to keep them fresh for way longer than if you put all of it in your fridge, and you're not going to be able to eat it in enough time. So just put everything in the freezer. Canned beans, that you can have forever. Rice, you pretty much have forever. So make a list of things like that. Those are going to be very important for you. And what meals do you already know how to make? Jot those down. It could be breakfast, lunch, doesn't matter. And what meals do you not know how to make, but you want to learn? Because I know, like, once you're scrolling through trying to find inspiration, you're really going to want to start cooking. And I'm not a huge fan of cooking. I do it because I have to. But sometimes when I'm scrolling through Instagram or TikTok even, I'll see people making something that just catches my eye. And I'm like, holy crap, I need to make that. So I am going to give you 5 minutes. We'll take a break, go through all of these, and then if you have any questions, I'll stay on, so you can feel free to ask them right now. you want to find your inspiration. I'm hoping that by the end of this little webinar, you're going to be pretty hungry and you're going to be inspired, because I made sure I picked a lot of really nice, pretty photos of healthy, balanced meals. A few places you could find inspo are Pinterest, Yumly, Instagram, YouTube, even TikTok, except TikTok is very short videos and usually they don't show you the entire recipe. That's the only downside. I've personally been using Yumly, so I like theirs because they have a pantry ready recipe section. So what you can do is actually type in all of the recipe or all the ingredients that you already have, and you can find recipes that you don't need to do anything for. You can just not have to worry about going to the grocery store. So sometimes if I'm in a rut and maybe I neglected to meal plan for a couple extra days and I need to make something and I have food but I didn't plan any recipes, I can usually just go on there and find something to do. But you want to make sure that you have some important criteria to filter through, because there's going to be tons of things on here, on all of these websites. So finding meals that can be made quickly are going to work in your favor, unless of course you have extra free time, which some of you do, but most of us don't. Ones that you already have most of the ingredients for. You don't want to go to the grocery store and buy tons and tons of ingredients for all of these different new recipes right off the bat, because that is gonna leave a hole in your wallet. It is gonna be very expensive. And it's likely that a lot of the ingredients that you'll buy might end up going to waste because you're not able to use them all in that 1 week. Because a lot of like healthy recipes will require fresh vegetables, fresh fruits and veggies, and you want to make sure that you are able to sustain all your groceries throughout the week. And also meals that are healthy and balanced. I underlined balanced because things can be healthy without being balanced, and you want to make sure that they are both. So that's really important. Like I use this picture here for an example of that, because you have your protein with the chickpeas, you have your healthy fats with the dressing and avocado, you have your complex carbohydrates with the sweet potato, and you have a ton of veggies. So that is a very good, obviously it's healthy, like it looks healthy just by looking at it, but it has all of the components of a well-balanced meal, which is just as important. So when are you going to do this? You can either just do it in your spare time, whenever you have a second, like even if you're just scrolling through Instagram and you happen to see something you really like and it catches your eye, just save it for later, and then dedicate an hour before you go grocery shopping, sometimes more. It really depends on how new you are to this. It might take a while to get the hang of it, but dedicate a little bit of time before you go grocery shopping so that you can go there with a solid plan. That is so important. You will literally master meal planning in 4 steps. It's really not super complicated. You just find a link and save it and make sure it has the full recipe. Write the date you'll be making it as well. So if you're going to the grocery store on a Wednesday, start with either Wednesday night, depending on when you're going, or Thursday, and keep track of, okay, I'm making this dinner on this day and so on. Don't just write them down kind of like I did. I should have written the dates. Number 3, list the ingredients you need to buy. This is important. Don't list every single ingredient that's in the recipe. You don't need that information when you're going grocery shopping. So you see how this is an example of, I just do it through Word because it's easy and I don't need anything too complicated. So I put the link to the website that I found it on and the specific recipe for some of them. Others, I have a very short cookbook. If it was a super long cookbook, I would have maybe written the page number so I would be able to find it easier. But since it's so short, I didn't bother. And then you have the name of the food, ideally the date you're going to make it, and then the link or where you found it. And then underneath that, You have the ingredients you need to buy. So you notice how, like, for this pesto pasta, I just needed kale. There's way more ingredients than what I actually wrote, but since I don't need to buy all these extra ingredients at the store, I just wrote kale because that's what's going to be on my shopping list at the end of the day. And then buy those ingredients and only those ingredients. And we'll talk more about that in a sec. Now, I only meal plan for dinners because I already have a good idea of what I normally like to make for breakfast, lunch, and what I like to have for snacks. I recycle all of my favorite things to make that are quick and easy and balanced, high protein, all of that. It really speeds up the process, but it still maintains that variety that I'm looking for. So I'm not having the same exact breakfast every morning, but I'm having probably one of 5 options. So now I'm gonna show my actual breakfast, lunch, and snack options that I recycle through, just so you can have some ideas. Like, if you really don't know where to start, this is a great place to start. I will say though, if you are vegan or vegetarian, some of these might not be good options for you. I eat a lot of meat and just animal products in general, so I am sorry. So with breakfast, I usually have a protein smoothie. So it's ultimately just a protein shake, but I add more to it, like frozen strawberries, oats, nut butter, yogurt, things like that, to fill me up better and to be more calorie dense, because I want more calories than just a 150 calorie shake will provide in the morning. Protein oatmeal, so I'll make regular oatmeal and then I'll add a scoop of protein powder to my shakes, or to my oatmeal, I should say. And then I'll usually add like maybe chia seeds or almond butter, berries, or what else? That's usually what I'll put on there. I have this apple pie oatmeal recipe on my Instagram Reels that's also really good, that I would definitely encourage you to check out. And then egg tacos, so basically just like a regular taco, except I'm replacing the ground beef with scrambled eggs, and it's really good. It's gonna fill you up and hold you over for hours if you have that in the morning. That's not something I want to have all the time because it's super filling, but it's definitely something, like if I wake up and I'm super hungry, that's what I go for. And then just a Greek yogurt parfait like the one I'm showing here, non-fat Greek yogurt with 0 sugar. I add a little bit of honey for some sweetness, granola, and all the berries. I love raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, everything. So that's what I do. So I tailor it ultimately to my food preferences. And then for lunch, I usually have a loaded omelet. Usually omelets are breakfast foods, but I like to have them for lunch because they're quick and easy. When I say a loaded omelet, I mean I put everything that I possibly can into it. I'll put peppers, onions, cheese, deli meat, spinach, all the works. Then either turkey or roast beef sandwich. Sandwiches are just really easy to make. Obviously mine do not look like the one in my picture. That is immaculate. But turkey or roast beef is usually my go-to. And then tuna is also a great option. If you're trying to lose weight, I would say having just tuna by itself without the bread, but having like a veggie alongside of it, like cucumbers. I know that's usually a good snack, is tuna with cucumbers. Usually I'll make a tuna melt because I'm trying to put on weight and I want as many calories as possible in my meals. So I will do whole grain bread. I'll butter both sides. I'll put the tuna and then some cheese, and then I will grill it, and it's amazing. But sometimes I'm extra lazy and I just want something for lunch. So I'll just do bread and tuna, nothing crazy. And then of course, the easiest of all lunches, good old leftovers. And for snacks, you want to make sure that your snacks are balanced as well. So having a good source of protein, even in your snacks, can be really helpful. Snacks should fill you up. They shouldn't just be there for your boredom, because a lot of snack companies will profit off the fact that they have a very high carb snack that will not fill you up, so you can eat the entire bag without thinking about it. Snacks should be intentional, and so to be intentional, they should be high protein so that they actually fill you up. So these are some good options. Homemade trail mix with pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, nuts, dark chocolate chips, craisins. That's a really good combination. Homemade protein bars, if you don't know where to start with that, I have also a recipe for that on my IG Reels, the one that I use. It is so, so good. And it's kind of like a meal prep thing, but it takes 20 minutes or less. You just pile in a bunch of ingredients, mix it up, put it in a flat pan sheet, and put it in the fridge. And then you have protein bars for the entire week. And they're healthier and cheaper than the ones that you'd get in the store. You don't need to put preservatives in some protein bars that you're just going to put in your fridge in comparison to the ones that you get at the store. Beef jerky, low calorie, high protein, very high protein. Popcorn isn't so much high protein, but it's a really good source of fiber, so it will still fill you up. That's always a good healthy snack. And then apple slices with almond butter are also very filling and very good. Now, these are just some additional tips in general, like when you're going grocery shopping and when you're meal planning. Don't go to the store hungry. You will buy so many unnecessary things, and then that's just gonna inhibit you from reaching your goals long term and totally rack up your grocery store bill. That's the main concern, is it's gonna be more expensive than what you intended, just because you go in and you already are craving food. And so when you're hungry, a lot of the time you're going to go for those sweeter things, like the lovely donuts that I desperately want right now. And then plan desserts in advance if you have a sweet tooth. Some people can be perfectly fine without desserts. I, for one, cannot. So I have an idea of like what I'm going to get at the store. I'm not going to get multiple things. I'm just going to get one thing that I stick with for the week. So like ice cream, for example, and I'll make sure that I'm reasonable about it and only have maybe one at the end of my day. So I'm not like constantly snacking every single day on sweet things like multiple times a day. I follow the out of sight, out of mind rule. So for example, when you bake chocolate chip cookies and you leave them out on the counter in the kitchen, every time you go into the kitchen or around the kitchen, you're going to see them and you're likely going to take one because they're really freaking good. So what you can do is, if you make chocolate chip cookies, you can put them away in a cabinet, and then you'll probably remember you made them at one point or another, but they're not going to be like in your face. So you're going to be less tempted to have them multiple times a day, and maybe you can make sure that you just have one after dinner, one or two after dinner. And this can be applied to anything. I'm just using chocolate chip cookies as an example because I am craving them right now. But like if you buy donuts at the store, or you buy pre-made cookies at the store, it doesn't matter. If you leave them out, you're gonna be snacking on them throughout the day. Now, your third option is just to not bake your chocolate chip cookies. And then they're really out of sight, out of mind. And the time where you're craving them, you're probably not gonna drive all the way to the store just to get cookies. Some people will, some people won't. And then you're probably not gonna have the time to bake them anyway. So there's different ways you can go through that, but that's usually how my brain works when it comes to sweets. And then what you can do is buy one night of lazy food. A lot of people tend to buy all of their meals in the form of lazy food. So like pre-made, pre-packaged frozen meals. Those can tend to be very calorie dense and very low in nutritional value. So I wouldn't recommend doing that every night, but doing it one night a week is totally fine. What I do is I get frozen boneless wings, and if there's a day I just don't feel like cooking dinner, I just pop those in the oven and then it's done. Is it all that balanced? No. But that's the cool thing about living a healthy lifestyle is you don't have to be strict with yourself. Like you can find balance in all of that. Now, this last tip is mainly for myself. Don't forget to thaw your meat in advance. If you have your meat in the freezer, chances are if you're gonna cook with some of it at night, you're gonna need to take it out ahead of time. If you're gonna thaw it on the counter, you can do that. Um, 5 or 6 hours in advance, depends on the type of meat, of course. Or you can put the meat that you're going to be using in the fridge overnight. I'm going to say putting it in the fridge overnight is safer. It'll make it so that you're not putting your meat at risk for bacterial growth, like just in case you keep it out too long on the counter and it goes over 41 degrees Fahrenheit, then yeah, that would be a problem. I do that personally, but I have a pretty good idea of like how long it takes to thaw things. Sometimes I'll take it out like not enough time in advance, and then that's a problem. But I'd rather have that be the problem than me put it out 10 hours early and then have food poisoning. So, you know. Now let's go through some questions and we will go ahead and finish. Is there a minimum age you have to be to use protein powder for your shakes or smoothies? No, there's no minimum age. Just make sure that you get a high quality protein shake, preferably with like no artificial flavors, colors, dyes, sweeteners, things like that. And make sure that you're not over consuming protein either. If you're getting enough in your meals, then you don't need a protein shake. It's meant to be as a supplement. I take protein shakes because I spread out my meals far enough between, but if you're eating like 50 grams of protein in one meal and then eating 50 grams more 2 hours later, I know that's super extreme and you probably don't do that anyway, but it's always important to note that overconsumption of protein is a thing, but usually that doesn't happen. I started drinking protein shakes at the age of 15. I am perfectly fine and healthy. There really isn't any risk to just consuming protein shakes in general. Doesn't really matter what age, but that's a good question. What are my go-to pantry items? Really, all I have in my pantry, like pantry items, would be cereal. I'll usually have that like as the last thing I eat at night just to increase my calories a little bit more. Bagels. I don't really have a pantry because my cabinets in my apartment are super small, so it's all just spices and supplements. Everyone says that women won't get bulky if they weightlift, but what about female weightlifters who are bulky? Do they take something to get bulky? A lot of the time, yes, they do, and they work really hard at it, like more than the average casual recreational weightlifter will do. So it's really not of concern. Like, for example, I have been weightlifting for 2 years, just over 2 years, and I work out my arms, my upper body more than the average female, and I am nowhere near bulky. And it also depends on the individual. Like, for example, shorter people, their muscles will expand outward more. Like, you'll be able to see the muscle go outward more than with someone who's taller. So it depends on the body type, your height, your genetics in general, but ultimately women do not produce enough testosterone to be able to get quote unquote bulky. But also bulky is subjective. Some people think bulky is one way and some people think it's another. So it's hard to tell. If someone wants to lose a bit of weight at first before toning and building muscle, should they consume protein shakes? Any tips for foods to eat to lose weight? Well, the cool thing is you don't have to worry about losing weight and then gaining weight later on in the form of muscle. You can actually lose fat and build muscle simultaneously, but across the spectrum, whether you're trying to do that, body recomposition, if you're trying to lose fat, either way, protein shakes are usually a good idea. Depending, a lot of people don't get enough protein. And when I say enough protein, I mean like protein to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, not enough protein that the government says you should have. I don't necessarily agree with government guidelines for protein. I think it should be a lot more. So yeah, you can have protein shakes. They're really low calorie, but high in protein. So they'll fill you up and keep you full for a while. So they're always great. And what do I think about creatine? Creatine is great. The science is there. So I wouldn't say like, oh, this doesn't work or you don't need it. You don't necessarily need it, but it's not bad. And girls can take it just as much as guys can take it. How much would you say you spend a month on groceries? I would say I spend $300 a month for 2. So that's really good. That's really, really good. It might be more, like between 300 and 400 a month for 2. That's because we bulk shop. Before, we were probably spending way more than that, just going to Publix. How much protein powder should you use? Just use the regular serving size. Just don't go over 40 grams in the span of 2 hours. And that really goes for anybody. I would say since you're a little bit younger, you probably don't even need 40 grams. I would say between 20 to 30 grams of protein in your protein shake. Hello everyone, I hope you enjoyed that webinar. It definitely wasn't my typical video, but I wanted to post that for those who weren't able to attend the live session. I will definitely be doing more webinars in the future and keep up with my YouTube videos on here as well. So be sure to like and subscribe and do all that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in. I hope you got value out of it. Meal planning is so important, and I just wanted to share as many tips as possible. I hope you guys have a great day, week, night, whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you later.